Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. And this week, it's another exciting recap, catching up with one of our guests from season 1. And it's actually a really good episode in number 8 in season 1. So please check it out. Catching up with Mick Gosset from JointFlows. Thank you for coming back on the show, Mick. How are you?
Yeah, very good. 1 year later, still here, looking much older, but this is the life of a startup founder, so all good. Thank you.
You don't look older. It's like yesterday. You look exactly the same to me. And just for those of you that, either you have listened to the podcast or you have missed it, we're just going to play a quick clip on some of the things that Mick was talking about on the last episode.
We are going to reach the £1 million ARR milestone this year.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's I was attending a VC event last week, and they were saying like 99% of startups don't get the business to 10K. Like finding the first client is a massive it's a massive, how do you call it? There's a massive cut there. Let alone getting it to 1 million. So we're very fortunate. I think there's definitely an element of we're working really hard, but there's luck that we've made the right choice at the right time, and it's a valid solution into a very complex market. So we get ears and we get eyes on it really easily. Once we're in the mix, then there's a no-brainer wow moment. That's okay. Well, yeah, this is working. But we want to grow being mindful about how we take on money and what we do with it. And I want to make sure that the team is fine. If we can grow with super keen, completely devoted employees and give them the framework to have a personal life, be happy, manage their work, treat them like adults. We're in a remote world. I'm not going into the office. I trust everyone is doing the right job. I don't look into these things. Then I think you create a really healthy culture.
Great. So, one of the things that we like to talk about when we're catching up with guests is, it's been a year. A lot can happen in a year, and I think as a founder, you're just constantly busy. And so taking that time to reflect on the past 12 months can sometimes be quite therapeutic. And I wonder whether you take any time to kind of sit back and reflect, whether that's on a monthly, quarterly or annual basis.
Yeah, so we do have the usual QBRs and MBRs internally. But I must admit that the speed at which the market is evolving, especially in the last 12, 16, 18 months with all the AI and the Claudes and the chat GPTs fighting for innovation, it keeps us on our feet, right? It's like, how long can you keep a competitive edge in this market? And what do you do next that can't be easily done by the big LLM platform? So it's always an interesting take, and I think in the last episode of the last time I was invited to the show, we spoke about being flexible and being able to adapt to market conditions really quickly. And I think this hasn't been more true ever. Like in the last 3 months, we've seen so much acceleration that if you snooze, you lose really quickly now.
Yeah, it is really, really fast. And, just to remind the folks, tell us a little bit about what JointFlows is all about.
Yeah, so essentially we've got an AI account executive. We've applied AI to buying cycles as well as sales cycles. And we sit on top of proprietary data, which enables us to look at deals with zero bias, use proprietary data to understand risks profiles on the fly, and then come up with next steps that are strategic as opposed to being task-based. Like, it's very easy to create orchestration and workflow automation on top of, hey, I've heard I need to do this task, let's do that task. It's very hard to understand buying motions, risk profiles, and how to mitigate risks on enterprise deals. So we've managed to crack that, and it's going very well. Obviously assisted by AI, so we're trying to see where, like, every day, how do we keep our moats, how do we keep our differentiators, where do we go where Claude can't eat our lunch, basically. And that, yeah, we don't know what Claude is doing next, so it's always a little bit of fun on guessing and betting on the next product roadmap, basically.
So I know from when we spoke before, you and your co-founders, you sort of come from the world of sales and the challenges around, that environment. Do you think that selling in this competitive market is harder than building the product? Because you mentioned about keeping up with, what other products are doing. Like, tell me a little bit more about what you think the biggest challenges are at the moment and have been for the last 12 months.
It boils down to four very basic factors. First one is 99% of B2B sales teams will operate within a CRM, and they follow their deals through a 5-step funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely misaligned with how buyers buy. So from the get-go, you've got a false representation of what to expect on the sales cycle and how to lay next steps on. That's the problem. This funnel model was built in 1999, and we're still there, right? And that tells you quite a lot about the maturity of the sector. The second one is win rates have decreased by 50% since 2021. Why? Is because there's a cap in knowledge, there's a cap in memory, and there's a cap in speed for humans, basically. So sales reps, sales leaders can't keep up with the speed at which competitors come up, new legal frameworks arise, difficulty, and obviously all the macroeconomic context that are arising is super hard to adapt nowadays, especially when you know that a sales rep is in seat for about 16 months in average. And the sales cycle, if you take 3 months ramp up, 3 months ramp down, the sales cycle of 9 months, reps don't see a full cycle anymore. So how do they master selling technology? I don't know. It's a big question now. And LLMs are actually dumbing people down. Like, people are expecting magic from LLMs, and they forget that it's all about context. And again, 99% of teams using CRMs don't have full context on their deals. So they plug in a ChatGPT or they plug in a Claude, and Claude is doing the best they can through understanding words and phrases to tell them what to do next. And we've calculated that every CRM record, every deal record in the CRM only has 20% of the actual deal insights. So email being captured, the right people being associated to the right context, to the right opportunities, to the right deals, call transcripts, all of that, actions, next steps. Only 1 in 5 is actually making it to the CRM. So putting LLM on that actually increases your gap as opposed to decreasing it in execution. And it's a big vicious circle. And the more they do it, the lower the win rate. And they think they're bad at selling. Actually, they're bad at capturing information that can feed AI.
It's a real challenge, and those statistics are pretty scary, actually, with win rates dropping that 50% that you've kind of highlighted. That's terrifying for salespeople individually. They must be very concerned about their jobs all the time. The leadership will be under immense pressure, which then extends to marketing functions, product teams, and so on and so forth. It does sound a little bit doom and gloom. And we do hear a lot of doom and gloom associated with AI, but I guess what you're building wouldn't be there without AI. So what do you think is the strongest thing from an AI perspective that your customers can gain from this?
We expose gaps, and we don't look at deal progression based on your sales process. We look at deal progression and revenue progression based on buying processes and buying requirements. And we flip around, we reverse engineer the risk factors, which is, okay, if you want to sell into this company, this is how they buy. This is how top sellers mitigate the buying risks. This is your specific instance context, so your market, your competitive landscape, your expectations, your product limitations, your product documentation. And this is the context of this one deal. And from there, we're not going in with, hey, you've agreed to next step, which is send a case study. Is why is the case study required? Well, because the buyer has this context they're trying to de-risk against. And this is actually what they're trying to achieve through the request for a case study. And most sellers, we've asked them to industrialize the process and to make it as easy to understand and report on as possible, which is you do a demo, you do a discovery call, you do a demo, you do a pricing call, you go through legal, and you get the contract signed. And the buyers don't buy like this at all. So they go and look at it. Okay, well, I've seen this before. I've got an incumbent. I've got 3 other vendors pushing for, I've got this constraint on my ecosystem. I need to integrate here. I've got personal risks as well. I need to de-risk against. I need to keep my job. You can't just, one size fits it all. So it fails. And at scale, it fails faster and faster because people are in seat for less and less time, more and more pressure. So they have to go and try and find quick wins, and they cut corners, like quite literally.
Yeah, and I think we've seen quite the progression in, I guess, most B2B sales and marketing functions in the last 15 or so years, where it has gone to that digital process. People are researching a lot of the information online and don't want to speak to a salesperson until they're very ready. And so they're often very aware. But with the creation of AI and so much of that research happening within those LLM platforms, how do your sales teams then make sure that the right information is getting to those buyers at the right time?
The game, who's going to win the game is the company with the highest level of AI readiness, not AI application, AI readiness. 90% of the teams we spoke to are not AI ready, meaning they never have full context available in a systematic way with high level of consistency from which AI can pull insights and provide output. So we don't really focus on, obviously we're aligning with buying processes, but the most important thing for us is to have a complete data set, not clean, but complete, which is we're capturing 99% of email back and forth. We're capturing 99% of conversations that are happening over web meetings. We're capturing 99% of tasks delivered, task executed, tasks mentioned. We're capturing 99% of Slack channels exchange. We're capturing 99% of WhatsApp channel conversations. And it means that in turn, every AI application we put on top of that complete data set gives us exponential results. The same isn't true if you only have 5% email coverage, 5% transcript coverage, 5% Slack coverage, and so on and so forth. So if you want to be able to deliver against the buyer requirements, you need to be ready to understand what they're actually trying to achieve. And that is done through machine learning and data capture. And as I said, 80%, 90% of the teams we speak to, even today, they're still not BCCing their email, their CRM in the email exchanges. Like, it's crazy. 2 in 3 companies don't record their sales calls. Like, it doesn't matter whether AI is here or not. Even if AI wasn't here, you would be blind completely to about 70% of what's happening in your business.
Amazing. And I think, that's something that's been around a long time, but with new tech that's been created, all of these things can be very easily done. It's just a case of, implementing them. So you talk about AI readiness, and I think that's a really good term. Do you have a checklist process, some way so that if somebody comes to you that's a sales leader and says, help, we want to be able to do all these great things, but I don't even know where to start. What are the kind of things that you are guiding your customers with to get them to that readiness stage?
5 things. Do you capture your emails? Do you BCC your CRM in emails? This is done automatically. I don't know why people still don't do it. You just have to put the plugin into your inbox and then it's done automatically. If you don't, you're behind. And actually AI is going to be detrimental for you. Second is, do you record your calls? A lot of people have good reasons not to record their call. I think it's complete BS. Like, people are used to now being recorded. You call a call center, you're being recorded by default. Like, it's fine. Most companies don't record their calls. Do you use a shared space for presentations? Like, do you have a company's OnePoint, or do you have a company's Google Drive in which you store your decks and assets? You wouldn't believe the amount of people who have stuff stored on their own personal desktop. Like, mind blowing. Do you have a deal for each prospect you're speaking to in your CRM? Again, like, have you got this thing? It's very simple, right? And those are the things that it was true 5 years ago, it was true 10 years ago, it was true 15 years ago. The sales leaders were able to maintain consistency and hygiene in the capture, not even in how it's captured, but it is actually captured and going into the CRM, will win, and it will benefit from AI. Everything else will be left behind. And the last one is, for each deal you've got in your CRM, have you got the associated contacts mapped out, right? So email capture, transcript, shared drive, deal objects, opportunity objects, whether you're in Salesforce or HubSpot, associated contact to the opportunity or the deal. If you get 80% of that right, which is all automated, like it actually takes 3 minutes a day, you will get benefit from AI. If you don't, AI will actually push you behind, because it's going to make things up, and then you're going to trust it, and then you're going to find out that it wasn't worth it, not trustworthy, and then the results will follow.
Arguably, this is sales 101, standard stuff that to be successful, those are the things that you should be doing. And I know there's a debate about whether you want your calls recorded. Some people are uncomfortable, but to your point, I think we're used to that now. And there's so many different options in tech to gather that. I think it's a tale as old as time, with people not having information being put into CRM on a regular basis. I know from personally my own experience, the constant nagging to get the sales guys to update things and add conversations and things like that into the system. But how do you help those sales leaders in making this happen? Because sometimes it's not necessarily the tech, but it's, the arguments against, well, I don't have the time to do this, and if it is a manual process, the automated stuff is the easy stuff. But if it is a manual process, how do you then make sure that your team are doing this correctly? And to your point, putting in the right information, because it's not enough to just say, oh, I had a call with someone, but adding all that context to your point earlier.
I've got a little bit of a controversial stance on this. I do believe that the role of sales leadership today is to avoid data blind spots. Coaching, it can be done through AI. RevOps and automation, it can be done through AI. Sales enablement can be done through AI. Deal progression, deal forecasting can be done through AI. Which means that if all of these surrounding disciplines can be 80% done by AI, the only thing you have to do is to make sure that the data is here to start with. And capturing email, no effort whatsoever. It's completely automated. Call transcripts, one click to the CRM, completely automated. Deal creation should be completely automated. Association of contacts to deals, 70% automated, one click, right? So it's not really about why is it too hard to do. Is sales leadership doing what they need to do in order to scale? And I'll give them that. I think up until 6 months ago, there was nothing coming back to them by doing this discipline of data hygiene, because the CRM was not giving you any insights on your deals more than the information that you were feeding it with. So it was a zero-sum game. So I do it for the sake of it, creating records. There's nothing coming back to me. But now it's not the case anymore. Now AI actually gives you things you can't see from the data that you're feeding it with. If you haven't done it already, then you've lost kind of the race, because the teams who have been AI ready are now using and extracting value from AI, versus the team who are now trying to catch up with that data hygiene they should have done 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think things have definitely changed. I'm keen to hear from all the conversations that you've kind of been having with sales leaders how they've actually seen the value of JointFlows kind of move them forward and improve their win rates. Because I know this isn't a sales pitch for JointFlows, but I want to dig into that a little bit more to understand, what JointFlows is actually doing to move the needle for them.
It scales the way they look at their deals and how they execute against risk mitigation, and it makes sure that it doesn't miss a step ever, which you can't do through simple LLM. So we always get a pushback. Oh, but why can't I do that if I just plug Claude into my HubSpot? Well, you just get LLM to a set of documents, right? It's just a set of text-based documents. It doesn't learn from your own cycles. It doesn't learn from your own risk profile. It doesn't learn from your own sector. And what we're doing today is because we've reverse engineered the data set, which is look at how buyers buy, look at what sellers do to help them mitigate the risks on their buying criteria and behavior, and then focus on what's specific to your company, what's specific to that deal. Our recommendations are always strategic. So Gong can't go into what we're doing because Gong thinks that a high level of qualification means that you've got a high likelihood of closing.
Right.
We don't see it like this. We're saying, well, actually, there's a strong pattern between your step here, the risk that has been exposed, who the risk is coming from in terms of job title, their current context, and your close lost outcome in 6 months' time, which you don't have visibility on. And we've learned that from hundreds of deals. So we go in, we look at all close won, close lost deals. We build a risk factor to say, okay, this risk leads 60% of the time to a close lost. In the middle, there's 6 nodes that are feeding the behavior. Let's look at the live deal and say, okay, well, this has the same pattern and the same risk profile as 5 of your close lost opportunities in the last 2 years. We're going to proactively de-risk it so that when you're in procurement, this doesn't backfire and then the deal slips months on month going forward. So you can't get that. It's basically having uncapped knowledge, uncapped memory, and uncapped speed on every single opportunity you've got in your pipeline with zero execution blind spots because we manage the execution as well.
Right. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So what do you think are the most important skills or attributes of a founder?
I think from a founding member point of view, I really think that the main skill is about how long you can survive and having that cockroach mentality of it's going to be uncomfortable, but we're going to get through this. We are bootstrapped, so for us it's even more challenging, and it boils down to your pain threshold, I would say, and your ability to sustain it. Now, as a single person, it's easier to do when obviously it's just yourself, but as a team, you have to carry the team with you, and you need to find a team that is able to match that threshold until things take off. But I would say that this is probably the number one skill that you need, especially nowadays with AI just creeping up and just doing what you've been doing for the last year or so in 5 minutes through Cloud Code. Not particularly well, but at least making you uncomfortable with the ever growing competitive landscape. So yeah, skill number one would be complete determination and acceptance of pain, I would say, which is not nice. It's not sexy, but it is what it is.
So Mick, in the last 12 months, what have been your best bits, your highlights in the last 12 months?
Well, we've successfully pivoted to a product we're about to launch, which I can't disclose fully. But we've had about 15 companies jumping the pilot phase, and the results are it's incredible. And this should be a game changer for the industry. So, like, if you read between the lines, it's covering everything we've spoken to in this conversation. And the second thing is we've been able to find product market fit for that new product almost instantly.
Wow.
Bear in mind that we've been doing this for a few years now, so we're not new to the market. but the pivot's been strategic. It was a big risk for us to do, especially with a successful product that we had initially. But yeah, we're coming out of stealth, I would say, within a month or two, and we're in active conversations with some funds to do a big funding round announced as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think by the time people hear this episode, it might already be launched. So you might be able to go and have a look on the website and look at Mick's profile on LinkedIn and see what that big surprise is, and look into it further. And with that, you talked about, resilience and, being able to deal with the challenges of being bootstrapped and all that. What do you hope to happen in the next 12 months?
I think there's going to be an increased gap forced by AI between good sales orgs and bad sales orgs. And I really wish the gap decreases in size as opposed to increase because of AI. I hope that more sales orgs get a reality check on, okay, all really I need to do now is have full context capture, which I can do very easily, which I should have been done 10 years ago, but now is required. What is not going to happen is going back in time to do that retrospectively on the last year, the year before worth of deals. So it's not all lost, and then AI is going to be bigger, better, faster as we go as well. But the behavior needs to change. And actually going back to the very simple, basic stuff will have exponential benefits now. So there's keep it simple, keep it clean, and you will actually be way more successful than you're trying to build your own CRM and vibe code it. Just keep it simple.
Great. And you've mentioned that you've got this new product launch, which is super exciting. Potential funding rounds. What else is in store for JointFlow, and also for you, Mick, in the next 12 months?
Yeah, so business as usual in the world of AI. So more and more innovation. We are going to grow the team very much on the engineering side as well. We've got an incredible engineering leader, Peter, who's changed the game for us. So we're trying to get in line with where the market is going and drive that as the leader in the category. And that's really the whole game is about, okay, what do we bring? Where do we bring value? How do we make this value as easily accessible as possible? And how do we actually close the gap as opposed to increasing it? Like, how do we go and help a company that is very, very behind in setting up the foundation, or if the foundations are missing, plugging the foundation in for them? That's a big job.
Amazing. I would love to have you back again next year. As you know, that's the plan for this podcast, is to keep following the journey of each founder, and see how you guys, move through the times of AI and everything else, and how it affects you personally as well as professionally. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And I'd love to have you back in 12 months. And for those of you that haven't listened to episode 5 of season 1, please go back and listen to it, and sign up for the podcast, and enjoy the journey as we follow Mick on his journey growing his business.
Thank you, Natalie.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share, or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.